All right, here we go. Theoretically, to anybody showing up now and anybody watching in the future, this will be really short, even shorter than I usually mean, because I do have nasal congestion, so I don't want to make anyone suffer through this voice too much until I've recovered from that. We go over here. Uh, yeah, sickness is even starting to mess with my mind. Started forgetting the order of things. Turn this on. YouTube's AI has actually gotten back on track and it's started demonetizing each stream. So we'll see how long this is able to last for. Switch over to live. Dismiss that. All right, looks like everything loaded okay. And forgot, as I promised I would do each time, since you guys asked, increase the size of mouse cursor, even though this makes it a bit more. All right, we got that up. Now we just need this. And to show you guys some new folders and stuff in the Google Drive real quick. And then we'll get started for real, for real. Nothing from anybody. I do have it set to live chat, right? Oh, well, barely anybody's here anyways. All right, so while no one's here, if anyone is here or watching the recording afterwards, to show you some of the new stuff. So all over in the Google Drive folder, we now have all these different folders with the different things, including this most recent one, where I'm compiling pie charts of each country's, how each country's electricity consumption goes. Like in the US, for example, 37% is consumed residentially or consumed by homes, apartments, and everything. Commercial is anything that is not a house or home or is not industrial. So industry is obviously factories, refineries, whether like oil refineries or metal refineries, smelting plants. Commercial is basically everything else. So businesses, stores, restaurants, any kind of office buildings, banks, etc. Usually, most government buildings are also just thrown into commercial as well. For most. Oh, there's there's an actual X I have to click. So there's those. There's also, as you might already know, the electricity demand level graphs if they feel like loading. So there's these. And I do constantly post the updated versions of each thing. There's the fertility rate graphs, since usually the ones you can find publicly on like the Google front page are 2 or 3 years out of date. They stop at like 2021. And there's all kinds of other stuff like future oil production and projections. Started adding these ones now. Individual demand graphs for each oil product for each country instead of just their total oil demand. So, like, for example, this is China's diesel fuel demand graph. And also these ones most recently, pie chart breakdowns of how each metal, mineral, or resource of some type is used. Like this one breaking down the percentages of how antimony gets used worldwide. So those are some of the new things. And I still have more stuff I'm going to be adding as well. And I will be doing almost every single country in every single thing, or in that case, every single resource. Switching everything I already have out here over from the endlessly scrolling Google Doc form over to the folder the folder with individual images that you can quickly go to the country you want and select. So that's all up and coming, and theoretically that should have allowed a few more people to show up. 5? Yeah, sure, we'll run with that. uh, have I been? I've been sick, mildly sick, not as bad as my parents, because my immune system is functional, or at least more functional than theirs. Not just because of the age difference, but also because I eat like decent amounts of actual fruits and vegetables, uh, whereas them not so much, but they're getting better. I'm starting to basically force them to. Although my dad's kind of more resistant, he's obsessed with his, I don't know, Joe Rogan inspired protein powder stuff or whatever. But anyways, so starting off on things, we have the basic numbers rundown. As things continue progressing, as Russia continues with the bonsai charging, and it is getting them 0.01% of what they want, as you know, they are gaining like a couple hundred feet here and there, like they're gaining a soccer field or a football field, as the real name of that sport is outside of America. They're gaining like a football field here and there each day, but at the same cost as you know you've been used to seeing, and that you can see for yourself in the various like videos I have bookmarked. If you go to any of these accounts yourself, as I said before, I don't play the videos on stream because you're quite literally watching people die, which is against my own morals to show to other people, like you know, brute force wise, and is also against you know streaming TOS anyways. And you know, in a lot of these, you quite literally will see human beings like getting blown apart into 5 different pieces. So they are continuing with the various and relentless assaults, uh, and continuing with you know the hyper improvised Mad Maxing. You know, where they're starting to actually run thin in the amount of tanks and IFVs or AFVs that they can actually field now. So they're doing they're like the infantry are charging on, you know, not mopeds. What's the word I'm forgetting? Golf carts and uh, the thing that rednecks drive around in the woods on, ATVs. They're the infantry are going forward on like dirt bikes, golf carts, and ATVs, and their backup, uh, their like backup armored vehicles are now coming down to trucks with like WWE pro wrestling cage match cages around them. I think there was, and like one of them was this one. You know, whatever this is, I can't even tell what like half of these items are that have been like glued onto it or bolted onto it. So there's like a generic vehicle under there somewhere, and then there's I don't know, some chicken fencing. I don't know, maybe some tire mud flaps, some carpets, I guess, some net up there, mosquito net, camo net, I don't know, and a machine gun, a like you know solitary machine gun. So like that's what their armored support is now coming down to. That was, let's see, China. I don't think, did I have any other assault clips? Uh, it's like no other clips immediate. Was this? No, that was from that stuff. That was from the plane crash. Yeah, here's some here. You got to see some of the North Koreans in this one. But so, the reason for resorting to that in various parts of the front line is because the numbers are running thin. So a huge chunk of that is what you're seeing in Donetsk. They what they do have left for like proper vehicles, they seem to be primarily dedicating to trying to push Ukraine out of Kursk, which is still not really working out. Numbers wise, from Russia's modern tank fleets or fleet of tanks that are like post 1970s and or tanks from the 70s that had like, somewhat modernish upgrades. Losses of those are now at 3,240 out of a starting fleet of about 3,200 and 100 produced in 2022, 150 produced in 2023. And I was giving benefit of the doubt that they were producing 600 this year, but counting Czech Dozbro, Jakub Janovsky let me know that that was not actually the case. So apparently they only made 150 new ones this year as well. So that's a grand total of 400 newly produced since the start of the war, which will put the numerical total for modern tanks at 3,600 net total, of which 3,240 have now been lost, which is, pushing the margin really thin, which is why if you hold on, I want to see if I still have that graph. The colors were really bright, so I should probably recognize it. But there was a graph someone posted of the ratio over like especially the last 6 months or so. That is not that one. That's types of tanks that were lost. Uh, there's a similar graph showing like the ratio of tanks versus IFVs or AFVs being used for Russia's assaults. And yeah, I think we're too far back. But I'm going to scroll this dude real quick. I think he's the one who made it. That's tanks, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's types of tanks. News. Let me see your graphs. Wait, hold on. This should be easier. Media. Uh, that is types of EMPs. That's types overall of IFVs, AFVs. Uh, more with types. That's different types of T-80s. Come on, that's types of tanks. Oh wow, this is all still just from the 20th. Come on. Okay, you and Jakub Janovsky, you guys post too much stuff. Come on. Uh types of T-80, T-72s. Come on, where's the one I'm looking for? Give me the graph that I'm looking for, please. Okay, I'm not looking for like individual hyper specifics of like each individual vehicle model and which particular upgrades they had. This one, no, nope. That is still types of tanks. That is types of IFEs and AFEs. That is types. 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 I don't need types. I'm looking for the tank to IFE, AFE loss comparison. Come on, dude. You're posting way, way too much. Come on. You're making me sort through all of this. Here, no. That looks familiar. Nope, that's just more types of tanks. Okay, well, looking like I can't go through every single one of these, but the ratio has tipped in where to a point where IFVs and AFVs, so stuff like BMPs and the like, are now making up in Kursk at least, where they're still using like legitimate military equipment to do stuff. The IFEs and AFEs are now starting to make up the bulk of the armored assaults as opposed to tanks because the tank numbers are running rather thin. They still do have, ancient tanks, the T-62s and T-55s, that they are bringing back, resurrecting from the dead. But those, aren't exactly the best weapon of choice for anything, really. Because their armor is like paper thin. They have essentially there's nothing modern to them at all. Their ammunition is like weaker than even the stuff from the 70s. for IFVs and AFVs, so stuff like the BMPs. And for those who might not be familiar with like what armored fighting vehicles or infantry fighting vehicles are, we'll show BMP 3, for example, get slightly bigger. So they're things that many people would probably colloquially, if they're not familiar with military equipment, would probably still say this is a tank. That is not what IFEs or AFEs are. They're non-tanks. They're just not. They are, meant for armored assaults, but they're not as heavily armored nor as heavily armed, and they tend to be faster and more mobile, and also carry troops in the back that they then will offload when they reach someplace. So, like Russia has the BMPs. They're now starting to thin those numbers out, but they have more of a margin on those than they do with their remaining tanks. So while Russia has like BMPs, for example, we have the Bradley. That's one of our main ones. Can I get a non-blurry picture? You see that this is where I'm getting pissed off. Like I want, I've submitted my stuff for like photography and showed like the quality of my photography work, but I keep getting turned down from places, and places keep hiring. With this being one of the few exceptions, although this image is really small, uh, places keep hiring people who are taking absolute trash pictures with like really horrible resolution. So I'm not sure what they're actually looking for then. But like this is the Bradley. So this is the U.S. IFE, or one of our primary ones. For IFE and AFE numbers, Russia is now in excess of 5,000 of their modern fleet of those lost. Of a starting fleet of 5,600, they built an extra 150 between the start of the war and last year, but that was only after the guy who owned the company that was supposed to be making them had secretly not been doing so and just been pocketing the money. The FSB arrested him. The government seized the factory, started making new BMPs. However, then the Orenburg region flooded out, and that factory was offline for a while. Apparently, it started pumping out new BMPs again in May of this year, and theoretically is pumping out 50 a month if we're assuming the best output levels, in which case that would then adding that plus the 150 on, that would mean Russia theoretically now has a net total of around or over 6,100, of which between 5,000 and 5,100 have been lost. So that margin is shrinking quickly, but still has more room than the remaining number of tanks does. The cruise missile ratio continues in line with what I've repeatedly put out as the expectation, since they're now at around 5,100 or a bit below 5,100 fired in total since the start of the year. That is cruise missiles. I'm not talking about ballistic missiles. Out of a starting total of 4,000, and given their production rates and assuming maximum efficiency in production, they would theoretically now have produced an extra 2,100, possibly maybe 2,200 since the start of the year, which would mean a net total of 6,100 or 6,200. And so that's 5,100 out of that. So that's either 1,000 or 1,100 total remaining, which has been the consistent total for almost a year now. So I have my thoughts that that's basically the floor, that someone, not Putin, someone making intelligent decisions in the Russian Ministry of Defense has decided missiles probably the minimum base speed should not let everybody go below that number. So now, they are not doing the like level of attacks that they used to in the earlier parts of the war, because they're only launching, like 80 or 100 missile waves when they have built up enough beyond that 1,000 cruise missile lower end threshold. And now their waves are becoming more consistent of old ballistic missiles that they're getting back from Iran and North Korea that the Soviet Union handed those to generations ago. And they're starting to run thin on uh, big howitzer artillery or SPGs. Like, for example, uh, I forgot the name of theirs, so I'm sorry. I'm just gonna bring up ours. For example, theirs looks kind of similar, and they both serve the same purpose. But this is an SPG. This is the U.S. one, the M109 Paladin. So big, mobile, like drives itself around artillery guns. Russia is apparently running really thin on those, despite the fact that supposedly they had over 1,600 before the war started, and they are getting close to, but have not lost 1,000 yet. So either maybe they were telling the truth and they really did have 1,600 and they just don't want to touch their remaining 600, or as plenty suspect and is probably the case, they were either lying about having 1,600 or the remaining few hundred were not really maintained properly and are non-functional, which is why they're now getting continuing shipments of self-propelled guns or SPGs from North Korea, making their way all the way over here. And the ones they're getting from North Korea are not that good. They're kind of slow and they have a really poor rate of fire. So if Russia is like resorting to using those, that's kind of implicative that that's the best they can get their hands on. You can do it. We did it. We unfroze. And they're starting to have troubles with those shipments now because out here in the middle of Siberia, where their railway is not that diverse, I'm about to sneeze, forgive me. Forgive me, as I said, I'm sick. Uh, it comes to multiple points where they really just have one railway out here, like literally one line. And that line got blocked for a number of days recently, causing backups in each direction because somehow they managed to collide two freight trains with each other out here and, had to thus get the vehicles and crews and equipment all the way out there to the middle of nowhere to like actually move all that wreckage off and repair the tracks. And incompetency is growing in air defenses. This time they can pass off the blame, kind of, since, this time it was on the part of Russia's, little isolationist white man's Islamic caliphate down in Chechnya, who, out here, get that off, who shot down a, did I not bookmark it? All right, come on. There's no way I didn't bookmark this. All right, never mind. Well, you can get this pretty easily just by doing this. Yeah, the Azerbaijan Airlines thing you can see here. A flight was going from Azerbaijan into Russia, and it was shot at by air defenses in Chechnya. And the pilots, quite skillfully, having nothing but thrust throttles, managed to actually fly the aircraft over the Caspian Sea, tried to land in Aktau in Kazakhstan. However, they were unfortunately not able to make a proper landing because you really can't in that circumstance. And it ended up crashing, and Uh, 30, is it 38 people died or 38 survived? Uh, Hold on. Reuters is behind a paywall. I'm not giving Fox News the time of day. About NPR. You guys at least have the number 60, 67. Oh, okay. 38 died, and that would be then 29 survived. So the pilots did decently with having nothing to work with but the thrust levers. So they did manage to bring the plane in like kind of level, as in it didn't know, it wasn't like just driving down and crashing. Like they were coming in on a landing slope, like down towards the runway, but they couldn't like actually keep it level because it's just gone at that point. Like the one that United Airlines DC-10 crash. If you guys who might be like aviation enthusiasts might be aware of that one from the 90s or 80s, sorry, 1980s. United DC-10 crash. Yeah, the 232. The like they had to, the pilots in that one also were down to only having like the thrust levers to try to control by using differential thrust between the engines. And they just like these guys, they did manage to like get it in. Wait, hold on, is this the same one? I might be mistaken this one. I don't know because there's one that looks similar that basically just immediately crashed after takeoff. I don't know if that was a different one, if that was a different one, or if this is that one. But there's one that crashed immediately after takeoff, which I'm pretty sure this is a photo of, versus one where the pilots were able to like kind of land, but they didn't have wheel control over the plane, so it ended up like tumbling across the runway, and resulted in stuff like this. So that happened. But if anyone wanted to take from that any quality assurance of the skills, apparently, of Azerbaijani airline pilots, there you go for that. I'll go ahead and put them right up there with Polish pilots and Aussie pilots, because almost every time Qantas, Australia's main carrier, almost every time Qantas has had something happen where they probably should have gone down, they managed to not go down, and many times have managed to come through with zero casualties when they really should have come through with many casualties. So Qantas might just have like standards, and apparently I guess so does Azerbaijani Airlines. Out here in the Mediterranean, well, let me actually check my chat. Never mind, there's nothing to check. Uh, yeah, out here in the Mediterranean, a Russian, not oil tanker this time, just a cargo vessel carrying general cargo, was a few days ago. That is okay. No, that's oil tanker stuff. Where's the regular cargo? Regular cargo. Uh, how far? Spain. Okay, yeah. It was this one, the Ursa Major. It was carrying equipment and cranes, port cranes and stuff. It was going to be carrying them over to isolated Vladivostok, which is going to be having problems getting stuff by rail, obviously because of the freight train double head-on collision that we mentioned a few minutes ago. So this freighter was bringing stuff over to Vladivostok, but its engine compartment exploded for reasons unknown at this time, and it sunk. So that's the thing that happened. And also, the Bosphorus Straits. Are those the ones? This one or the other one? Which end of the Sea of Marmara? Sea of Marmara is the Bosphorus. I believe it's the north portion, but it might be the southern portion. But one of these two, like effectively naturally nature-made canals, one of these two is blocked temporarily because of mishandling of one of Russia's oil tankers, which is now going to have to be towed off and aside somewhere. So that's five oil tankers they've lost from business over the last just like 1.5 weeks, because they had three that sunk, and it was two at one time, then another one, and then one caught fire. I think in that was all up near Novorossiysk or up in the Sea of Azov. And now one of them is having some kind of problem and it can't maneuver, so it got stuck and was like blocking the waterways through the Bosphorus Strait. So that's having to get removed. So that's five losses to its tanker fleet they've now suffered in a rapid period of time. Let's see, what do we have else? Oh yeah, uh, drone strike, Beaver drone swarm strike on the Rostov refinery. Hit some storage tanks, but also primarily it did actually knock out the refinery itself, which is going to be offline for an unspecified amount of time. The particular section that was hit refines, or normally would refine, about 150,000 barrels of oil per day into actual products, gasoline, diesel, etc. That is now offline and unusable. Let me see. What else do we have here? I didn't organize this properly. Oh, yeah. So, the mining industry in Russia is beginning its downturn, or a steepening of its downturn. It already had been incrementally going down, but now it's starting to pick up speed following Russia's oil output levels as well. Now its mining output is going to start going down as various mines, especially the ones that are like farthest out there, have been saying that they're going to start shutting down operations and are have thus begun laying off their workers because they can't afford stuff, since they need mining equipment, legitimate mining equipment, the majority of which Russia has always gotten from the outside world. They primarily use Komatsu, which is a Japanese manufacturer, for their mining equipment, and they can't legally buy Komatsu stuff anymore, so they have to pay, like triple prices to third and fourth party members to smuggle it to them via someone in China, usually buying it, who then sells it to someone in Mongolia or someone in Kazakhstan, who then sells it into Russia. So they can only really afford those if they can get loans. However, they've been warning, as you remember a few streams ago, other companies, defense contractors even, have been warning Putin that they can't like afford the interest rates that the banks are now charging in Russia for the loans. So now their mining industry is starting to run into quick problems because they can't get the loans because they can't afford to pay the interest rate on the loans. And without the loans, they can't pay the heightened, 3 or 4 times normal price via smuggling to get a hold of actual mining industry vehicles and equipment. So now their mining output of stuff is going to start tanking along with their oil output. Some of their stuff has already gone down already. They it was slow enough to where they could prioritize one over the other. Like obviously, they chose to above all else keep the platinum mines going and the nickel and diamond mines, and they in exchange, like, they shut down their antimony mines and some of their copper mines because they're not like that big of a producer. Now they're not going to be left with that kind of like pick and choose choice thing anymore. And also, to follow up with uh, Roman Abalin's joke, he's a YouTuber from Russia who fled to Portugal, uh, managed, to dodge out the whole draft thing in 2022, a few months before it actually happened. Uh, he has said repeatedly, as a joke, kind of, that Russia's like Ministry of Media or whatever it's called basically has some kind of appeasement quota from the Kremlin, that like every financial quarter they have to ban something new. So first they banned YouTube, then they banned Facebook, then Instagram. Most recently, they banned Discord. Now, apparently, I don't know if it was before or only in light of those things, it has now become Russia's largest social media app. But WhatsApp has been Russia's largest recently social media app. Now they're saying that when we reach 2025 in a few days, they're now going to ban WhatsApp too. So I think he might be right over there. They might legitimately be on some like scheduled quota, and it might literally be actually each financial quarter they have to ban another, of the big like communication sites until eventually they get a full digital version of the Iron Curtain restored. Let's see. Look through this list. Did we have anything else here? Uh oh yeah, the surprise admission or maybe accidental admission. So they've tried to play it off by saying that he didn't actually say that, and he just meant 600. But they kind of got overwhelmed by the broader majority of Russian speakers, acquiescing to the truth. And no, he said 600,000. So the mayor of Moscow was talking about this like new uh, PTSD wounded soldier rehabilitation facility they're building, and about how like they need many more. This isn't going to be enough because we've had 600,000 wounded soldiers going through the treatment system. Uh, and he was referring in that, yes, to the whole system. So, no, it was not a slip up. He's not just referring to this building. So that is a either slowly like allowed admission of actual numbers on the Kremlin's part, or it was a screw up and he's gonna face some kind of punishment. So that's an admission to 600,000 like hospital treatment requiring injuries that have been received by Russian military personnel since the start of all of this. And that would then, if we take that at face value, that would actually put total Russian confirmed, whether by accident or intentionally, casualties at actually like 800,000 plus, because they also, uh, I don't, no, that one wasn't an accident. That one was someone deliberately copying those papers and like posting those papers anonymously, and then they ended up getting like republished with you know fixed numbers that were nowhere near the actual numbers. But on those government like internal discussion memo things back at the start of this year, they for the Ministry of Finance or Finances, they had the thing about how they've since the start of the war issued 202,000 payouts to families, widows, etc. Uh, they've had to issue 202,000 dead soldier payouts, and that was from the start of 2024. But for benefit of the doubt's sake, hold that steady. So that would be a total of 800,000 like casualties, which is uh, more than Russia wants to claim. Uh, it's uh, it's less than what's like most propaganda on our side usually claims. It is actually around where specifically Ukraine's do they call theirs a Ministry of Defense or Department of Defense? It's around where theirs has usually claimed. Just their like Ministry of Defense, like in the political system, their policies and stuff usually their like just their defense ministry has usually actually claimed numbers that now end up fitting close to that. Granted, that's those 600,000 hospital requiring injuries would not all be like permanently debilitating, and a lot of those probably got sent right back to then end up dying at the front. So some of those 600,000 and some of those 200,000, specifically the 200,000 number was at the start of the year. Some of those are likely, actually, a fair number of those would probably end up being the same people. So the actual net total there is actually probably lower. But that was a surprise, a surprise to say the least. If that was actually like deliberately allowed, and if that was not that guy like wrote his own stuff and said that when he wasn't supposed to. But they might be going through. Moscow might be going through a whole thing of like uh, thinking or realizing that if this is going to be over eventually, the Russian people are going to end up finding out the numbers, like the real numbers, eventually, anyways. So they may be trying to like slowly like drizzle information out into the public instead of letting it just come like slapped in the face shock value. But that was the last thing for them. Now going down here, Israel has continued around, going in their clockwork pattern, like I thought, since it all started with Gaza. Then they spun up to Lebanon. Then they were bombing everything in Syria. But then the Syrian Revolution happened, the second one that only took 1 week. And then they really bombed everything in Syria now that there was no air defense personnel. They bombed a few things in Iraq and Iran, and they will probably be circling back to actually do more to Iran in the future. But now they've swung all the way down to 5 or 6 o'clock on the clock hand arrangement and have turned their focus to Yemen, as they've been doing multiple airstrike campaigns in western Yemen over the past few days. They've destroyed what was left of the Yemeni oil terminals and refineries. So now Yemen's going to have a domestic fuel supply issue and can't export anything. However, that's not like a big development because they already couldn't, because their oil production was already crippled. However, also, they bombed one of the primary government buildings in Sana'a during a Houthi leadership meeting. Not like all of them, not every single like member of the Houthi leadership was there. but a handful of them were, so they're dead. And they also bombed the airport in Sana'a, which the goal of was to we that was the one that was just like a couple nights ago. So I have to scroll up to get that. The goal of that was to destroy the Houthis' F-5s, which are not real combat aircraft. They're pathetic trainer jets from the 50s, and like no one except the Houthis would ever actually make propaganda videos with these and try to even remotely claim that these make them a serious military force. But the Houthis take pride in their five F-5 jets. So that was one of the things that Israel destroyed was their tiny little collection of non-functional antiquated F-5s. So they're turning their focus there, since you might remember I said a while back that now that the carousel has begun, if maybe we want to refer to it as a carousel instead of a clock, now that they're on the carousel ride, I guaranteed you then, and I guarantee you again, the IDF's just going to keep riding the carousel. And since the opportunity has been like given to them, they're going to keep acting on it to pound out and eliminate basically every perceived threat they have around them in the region, since they now see themselves in a position of having a ongoing series to operate all of. So that is ongoing, and where this is not quite, so probably teams, that would help. There we go. Uh, so the stuff that like will legitimately affect oil supplies, uh, and thus pricing and stuff won't come until they really home in on Iran again at some particular point in the very immediate future. That will be when inevitably you see like actual oil related effects come off of this. So that is what they're up to. Oh, yeah, I forgot. They also, in a, not the best public relations move, bombed the capital's power plants. So now the people in the capital of Yemen have no power, including for things like hospitals and stuff. So that was a really, really human move, really brilliant move to make. All right, let me take a sip of water. Swinging over to Tunisia, and then we'll check chat. They finally did start getting some rain. Praise God. They were down to only 19% total water supply left in their reservoirs across the country. They are now back up to just by a little bit, but they did climb back up to 21.6, I think. They were down to 21.7. They've climbed back up to 21.7. So we'll see if hopefully that pattern of off and on small amounts of rain continues and they restore. They were able to get back up to 36% this, by the start of this past summer. They're stability going down 19% last winter. So we'll see if they manage that again this time. Otherwise, they're going to potentially then, end up going further, even further down than 19% as we go through the second half of next year. But that is some good news there. Anybody else say anything? No? Dang, everybody is super quiet recently. Yeah, the links down here do work, right? Super chat and Kate. I know that's the super chat thing from you guys' end. I don't know what the engage with your audience thing is. I think that's like to put up a live poll. I might try that sometime just to actually see what it does. maybe during the stream I'm going to do either Sunday night or Monday night. I'm going to be doing a longer stream. Hopefully, my voice will be better by then. I'm going to be doing a longer stream since it's the end of the year. I'm going to do a what's coming in the second half of the 2020s stream. That one's actually probably going to be like 2 or 3 hours because there's quite a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about like events and stuff that you're going to see, trends, technological stuff, and also a lot of just data. What populations, oil production levels, demand levels, and stuff. So that's going to be a long one. Oh, and while we're over Iran, I almost forgot. So Iran has made the wiser decision, better decision than it made last winter. So I've told you guys before about how, Iran now has to divert a lot of its natural gas production into reinjection to its oil fields to keep them pressurized enough to maintain 3 million barrels per day of output. So that's causing domestic supply issues. And last winter, they ended up cutting off the heating supply for a lot of their northwest, which is where their Azeri population lives, the same people as Azerbaijan. And, the government of Tehran does kind of, wish their Azeri population was gone, along with their other minority groups like the Kurds and the Balokis. So they weren't all that upset about, a few hundred of them or however many freezing to death. But the Azeri people were upset about a few hundred of them freezing to death. And they took it out on many government offices and facilities in the northwest of Iran. So Iran has decided, it doesn't, since it already had the almost uprising back in 2022, it doesn't want the rest of its population getting any ideas from, the Azeri people up there doing stuff. So they are now, instead of cutting off the Azeri population's heating supply, they're shutting off some gas-fired power plants. They're dialing things down and are implementing power cuts and power restrictions more broadly across larger portions of the country to try to play the "we're being equal and fair" card. So in a number of places, they're now doing stuff like this city will only get electricity on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And this city over here will get electricity on Tuesday and Wednesday and Sunday. So they're now uh, delving or devolving into that. And the Iranian people are not pleased with it. So, you can only imagine where this is going to spiral to eventually. But then, right next door over to them, we have maybe something starting up even before the probably inevitable conflict between India and Pakistan over the Indus River. We have now ongoing airstrikes by Pakistan on Afghanistan, since the Taliban in Afghanistan has instead of reining in or holding back the portions of the Taliban that operate in Pakistan, like the Pakistani government hoped they would, they've been giving a full thumbs up go ahead to the portions of the Taliban in Pakistan to, attack government buildings in Pakistan, to, shoot Pakistani soldiers and security forces. They even did that suicide bombing at that mosque a number of months back that killed like 200 people. So Pakistan is now getting tired of that and has started bombing Afghanistan in response. So now might actually see a Pakistan Afghanistan conflict, although that would be kind of limited because Pakistan doesn't really have the logistical wherewithal to like mobilize an invasion force. And especially not for the whole mountains rugged thing. They're more tailored to over here on the flatlands, being ready to fight with India. Plus, their military is not the best to begin with. But Afghanistan, doesn't have an air force and doesn't have any form of real air defense. So they can bomb Afghanistan, and they have been bombing Taliban sites in Afghanistan. However, in the most recent one, whether it was intentional and they just didn't care about the collateral damage, or it was completely an accident and the bombs went somewhere they weren't supposed to, they did kill 48 like regular villagers in one of the most recent ones. So now the Taliban, pretending to like care about the lives of innocent people, is now raging upset about that, and has been doing the jihadi speeches, blah blah blah, infinite vengeance upon Pakistan. So that might turn into something. Maybe it wouldn't be like the biggest something. It would kind of be pretty limited, like I said, and that wouldn't really affect too much in terms of like the global market at large. It might drive up talc prices a little bit, since a good share of talc supply comes from Afghanistan and Pakistan. So there might be some issues with that, since both of those mining areas in each country are like near each other on the same area of the border up there. So that's the only thing that might really come about from that. But in terms of like stuff coming out of Pakistan, not that much. The like garment factories that make towels and stuff, they make really good towels. Those are all down in like the south, I think. But those were already under threat from the ongoing failure of Pakistan's cotton crops because of ongoing drought. But that could always result in other things like uh, Tajikistan, since they already threatened Afghanistan once. Tajikistan, is a bit crazy. They might jump on that opportunity, since they can't invade and claim the southwestern arm of Kyrgyzstan like they want to, because they tried that under the shadow of Russia invading Ukraine. They tried invading Kyrgyzstan, and even though Tajikistan has a better, more well-equipped military, they kind of got ratioed by Kyrgyzstan, which was hilarious. But uh, they also claim this Arakshan region of Afghanistan up here as part of Tajikistan. So if this starts happening, there's a chance maybe Tajikistan might like try to jump on its claim. Their strongman dictator might try to like recover some of his damaged prestige from losing against Kyrgyzstan, and try to seize the Badakhshan region from Afghanistan. That is, I believe, mostly it. If there is more, I can't really recall it at the moment, because, like I said, my mind is kind of whirlpooling because I'm really sick right now. Did anybody else say anything? No. Extra quiet from everybody. All right, that is going to be it for this one then. Since there's nobody else, unless I check in 10 seconds after I take a sip of water and there's something there to respond to. Otherwise, this is going to end for tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and resize my mouse cursor back down to regular size then. And nope, doesn't look like anything. All right, then that's where I'm going to call it. I'll see you guys Sunday night or Monday night, whichever one I end up feeling better on. Like I said, that stream will be probably 2 or 3 hours, because we'll be going through the whole rundown of list of things that will likely be or probably will be happening over the course of or during the second half of the 2020s, since that's the time period we're about to enter into. But that is it for this one. So thank you everybody for being here, and I will see